good afternoon. I hope you guys been having a wonderful week. I know I have. And by God, I can't believe we're already in the middle of July, or at least getting there. I mean, shoot, it's like I blinked and July is already halfway gone, which means that summer is almost over, and that actually sucks. I would really hate for summer to already be gone because, one, I like summer. I want summer to continue to come and continue to ray sunshine. Except for all the hurricanes. I would love to avoid that. But anyway, I'm glad to be back. My 4th of July was amazing, and I hope your guys was too. But for today's episode, I figured for our first episode back, I would go ahead and do a review of the newest entry in the Quiet Place series called A Quiet Place Day 1. Now, I will say this will be a spoiler review, so if you haven't seen the movie yet, just go ahead and skip this episode. I made sure to give a couple of weeks between when the movie premiered and this review because, one, I wanted more people to see this movie, so of course people can enjoy this episode and my opinions on the movie. Now, for those of you who either seen the movie or decided, you know what, I haven't seen the movie but I don't care, I will go ahead and do a quick rundown for those of you who haven't seen the movie or any movie in the franchise. So, The Quiet Place is a horror thriller movie set in a post-apocalyptic Earth where creatures have taken over, and not just any creatures, alien creatures. These creatures act more akin to animals than some sort of smart aliens, and they hunt. Their skin is extremely durable, able to withstand almost any type of handheld firearm. I don't know how well they do against tanks. We really haven't seen that in action with these creatures. Now, here's the thing, and that's more interesting. These guys do not have any eyes. They are completely blind, but have extremely good hearing. Like, you step on a piece of glass, even though it's small and it makes a crack, these guys will hear it. And it's insane. And not to mention, they will alert the other creatures that there's food nearby. Now, the only way for a regular person to kill them is to either get them into the water because they cannot swim and actually drown really easily, or the other way for you to kill them is to basically use a high-frequency sound which overloads their hearing and allows for their tough armor to curl back, exposing the soft tissue for anyone to attack them and kill them. It's honestly a great horror series, and the fact that the first movie has little to no background music just adds to the horror of keeping quiet. Shoot, I still remember going to the movie theater to check out the first movie, and everything was super quiet where everybody can hear everyone's eating. You can hear when people were sipping soda, and you can tell who brought food from the outside. Like, it was that bad until it got to a waterfall scene where there was actual noise, and all you hear in unison is everybody who was waiting for some sort of sound so they can crack open the can of Coke they brought from the outside. Now, Day 1 is a standalone prequel and spinoff. All but one of the characters that appear in the movie are new, except for Henry, played by, and I'm gonna butcher his name, Jimon Hounsou. I really cannot pronounce his name. I apologize. I really do apologize. His character shows up in this movie, and you probably know him from The Quiet Place Part 2 as the man on the island. It's only in Day 1 where we actually learn his name is Henry. Spelled interestingly, it's Henri. It's a very interesting way to spell Henry. Anyway, this movie follows Lupita Nyong'o's character, Samira, or Sam for short, who is a terminally ill cancer patient currently living in a hospice in New York. Now, I gotta say, this movie really captures what living in a hospice looks like. I've actually worked for a hospice company, and yeah, no, it's depressing. A lot of those there who basically don't have any family members who show up, who are basically sometimes dropped off, and it's just an atmosphere where you know you're there until you pass away. Like I said, it's a very depressing atmosphere, and this movie does a really good job at capturing it. Now, the movie starts off with basically all the patients in a circle just talking about their own stuff, where the nurse, Ruben, played by Alex Wolff, who I didn't even know was in the movie since the only names that appear on the posters is Lupita and Joseph Quinn. Now, he basically says that Sam has a poem she's written, and Sam basically says, yes, I'm being made to read this poem. And she does so. And I gotta say that while this poem has a lot of profanity, it is hilarious. And if you ever worked in the medical field, it's just funny. It's just really funny. It adds that extra level of humor, especially working in a hospice. Now, after the circle is done, Sam is heading back to her room with Frodo, where Ruben tells Sam that they're all going to see a show in the city. She is very reluctant to go until she asks if they can get pizza in the city, which he agrees to. Honestly, if you want to make a New Yorker go to some place, tell them that there's pizza. Not cardboard pizza, real actual pizza. And they make a point of this because apparently they had pizza the other day, and she's like, no, that wasn't pizza. I want real New York pizza. Now, when they get to the show, Sam sees that it's a marionette show. And I'm not going to lie, the puppetry in the show was very impressive. You could tell that the show spoke to the character, Sam, as it depicted a puppet blowing up a balloon and flying until falling after the balloon is popped. And I guess she saw it as you riding high with life until something eventually blows and you just hit the rock bottom. Like I said, it was actually pretty good puppetry, and the way they depicted it was amazing. Also, I want to note that she's actually angry because, I'm not going to lie, when you hear show and you're going to New York, you're thinking Broadway. That's basically what I thought as well. Not a puppet show, but like I said, she goes in and she enjoys it anyway. She, afterwards, seeing the puppet show, exits the show to basically go to the local bodega to grab a candy bar. One thing I found interesting is that the cat did not meow or complain about being put in a leash. I guess it's trained not to struggle with being the leash, but the fact that it doesn't meow once in this movie, I just stood there in disbelief. I'm like, who has a cat that does not meow? Those cats will meow and will let you know when they want something. Anyway, while in the bodega, the cash register dude who basically owns the bodega tells her she can't have a cat, which is ironic because there's a bodega cat there. She tells him that it's a service cat and leaves. Now, I forgot to mention this. The other most unrealistic thing about this entire movie is that the cats did not hiss at each other. I don't care if this is a service cat. If you own a cat, you know that they do not like other cats, especially ones that they don't know and it's a stranger to them. I can't tell you how many times I've seen my sister's cat hiss at other cats that it doesn't know because it's invading their territory. Like I said, service cats being okay with other cats, fine, I can see that. But the bodega cat not hissing? That's something else entirely. Like I said, probably one of the few instances where I was like, really? But anyway, moving on from the cats. After she leaves, she sees multiple cars passing by, including ambulances and military vehicles. Ruben tells her that they need to leave because something is happening in the city. She becomes upset when it becomes apparent that they will be leaving without getting the pizza that was promised. She gets on the bus and puts on her headphones, and this movie easily takes place in the early 2000s because she has the very old, probably the first or second generation of iPods. Anyway, after she gets on the bus and puts her headphones on, she notices that everybody's going to the back of the bus. Now, I'm not gonna lie, the way it's depicted, it seems like you can hear nothing but the music, but living in that era, having those types of headphones, I will tell you, they're not that good at keeping noise from the outside from getting in. You will be able to hear everything still, because it's not like the AirPods of today where you have active noise canceling. But anyway, through the distance, you can see that there are a bunch of meteors falling from the sky. It gets very quiet as one zooms right past the bus and hits the ground, causing an explosion and causes Sam to be sent backwards. And of course, and most likely kills all the people who went into the back of the bus to watch the meteors. She ends up being covered in ash and has a big ring in her ear. Everybody around her that were in the other cars are panicking, and this is when the creatures start to attack. I gotta say, the sequence of all the creatures coming straight from the meteor is done amazingly. Like, there's no lag. The meteor falls, it crashes, and now everybody's running, everybody's confused, and these creatures are coming out of nowhere and killing anything and everything that's making noise. And of course, it's New York City. Everybody's going to be making noise. After roaming around and trying to hide, she's basically knocked out, and Sam awakens back at the puppet theater, where she sees Ruben, who is still alive. Ruben also has her cat Frodo, which makes her very happy as he hands the cat back to her. They keep quiet at this point because they now know that making any noise attracts this creature, which is great. Now we're getting smart, playing smart, and it's not going to be one of those cliche stupidities moments. But anyway, they begin to hear a helicopter go by, informing everyone to get out of the bridges. And I gotta say, after this helicopter goes by, you just see a horde of these creatures just running past and going on top of the buildings, going after the noise coming from the helicopter. And it's scary. Later that night, they see that all the bridges are being destroyed by military jets. A man sees this and begins to freak out. Henry grabs him by the mouth and slams him against the wall, accidentally killing him because he needs him to keep quiet, because this man, if he was left to his own devices, would have alerted every single creature in the area. After that, Ruben and Sam go back inside and communicate through pen and paper about their plans and what to do next. Ruben wants to escape the city while Sam wants to go to Harlem for pizza. He laughs as the power goes out and the backup generator kicks in, making a lot of noise. Ruben goes and turns off the generator, but it's already too late as one of the creatures hears him and also most likely hears his shirt being ripped after he pulls back and instantly kills him. Sam, being just brought with tears because one of her last friends that she knows on the earth has just been killed in front of her eyes, grabs Frodo and attempts to go to Harlem for that slice. She runs into a couple of kids who are hiding under a fountain, which is honestly smart because running water, if we learned anything from the first film, if you're under running water, like a waterfall, or in this case a fountain, the noise basically cancels anything you say as long as you're like below the noise of the water. And she hands them the candy bar she took from the bodega, allowing them to eat. She tells them to follow her, and they actually run into a bunch of people who are heading for the docks because before a helicopter went by telling everybody that to get to the boats at the docks, that these things can't swim, so it will be a good thing. Now, she and the kids begin to follow the crowd until she tells them just to follow the people going there as she heads the other way because she is going to Harlem for that slice. Now, as she's going the other direction, she sees how big the group is getting. Like, you can see that it went from maybe 10, 20 people to basically it growing further and further and further as a horde of people are going down the same street, the same route to get to the docks. And I will tell you, my anxiety went up because of this. Because you had people with walkers, people with wheelchairs, and other stuff going by. And I will tell you, I have never met a huge group of people that were quiet. Even if they weren't trying to make noise, the fact that you had a bunch of people walking on concrete should have alerted somebody like, hey, maybe we should all take different routes. Because not even 5 minutes later, the creatures attack them because they can hear just, like I said, a group of people walking by. Sam escapes and Frodo runs off on his own. The camera then pans to a flooded subway entrance, the train subway, not the restaurant, where Joseph Quinn's character pops up. He is very anxious, gasps for air, and begins to feel scared until he sees Frodo, who calms him down. Frodo then goes off and finds Sam, and Eric follows Frodo and then afterwards begins to follow Sam. And Sam gets really annoyed at this. It begins to rain, and of course Sam realizes that the amount of rain that's pouring down and with the thunder and lightning will allow them to talk. She informs him that the docks is where he needs to go, but he states he doesn't want to be alone and is basically still in shell shock. They go to her apartment, and a funny sequence happens where Eric attempts to break down the door in conjunction to the thunder, and he fails in his first attempt, which is hilarious because Sam just looks at him. He's like, really? Anyway, once they get inside, Sam attempts to find pain medication because she's in constant pain, but she's unable to find anything. They begin to talk where Eric reveals that he is an English student, English as in from London, and is in New York City for law school. Sam reveals that she is a poet and has him read one of her poems, which I'm not gonna lie was really, really good. He asks her why she wasn't heading for the docks, and she reveals that she's heading to Harlem to go to Patsy's for a slice. And he laughs and decides to tag along with her. And I also chuckled at this because when she said that she was heading there for pizza because of a happy memory, I'm not gonna lie, I can resonate with that reasoning. Any New Yorker could understand basically wanting to get a comfort food like pizza because you have so much memory with like getting a slice. I still remember me and my dad grabbing some slices in New York. We would have fun, talk, and all that stuff. It was just a way for everybody to come together. And don't forget, Sam has cancer. She has terminal cancer as it was shown in this movie. So she's not long for the earth. So for her, wanting to grab something that brings back a happy memory isn't that far-fetched. And I gotta say, it was really human and felt like something somebody would actually do if they were in the same situation as Sam. Now anyway, during the thunder and lightning, Sam begins to scream as the thunder goes off because of the frustration. And then Eric joins her as well. And the moment's very therapeutic, as you can tell for the characters. After they fall asleep in the morning, Sam gets up and leaves without waking up Eric. It's later shown she's sitting down looking at a book, and her cat, who's in front of her, notices someone behind her, and she gets scared, turns around and sees that it's Eric. She reluctantly agrees to allowing him to join her, as she probably can tell that he's not gonna do anything else but follow her. As they leave, one of the book falls, and it makes a huge noise. And a sequence begins as they attempt to escape from all the creatures that's after them. Like they go into a building and these creatures are coming off from the roofs, just stomping down, trying to eat them. And it's a really good sequence. And Eric did something extremely smart that I was yelling at the screen for him to do, and he did it. And it was to throw a rock at a car, breaking its window, which had an alarm go off, having the creatures that were after them now go for the cars instead. I actually love it when characters aren't dumb and actually do something that's smart. It's so refreshing to see people in a horror movie do something smart for a change instead of something stupid. Anyway, they go to a tunnel and try to go to the other side, but there's a creature there. So they go further into the tunnel, and it turns out the tunnel was leading to a subway, and they decide to go down the train tunnel after they see that it's flooded and it's the only way. While going down the tunnel, they end up seeing a creature that's above a hole and who basically doesn't see them, and they go and move slowly. While they go further in the tunnel, the water rises and rises, and Eric starts to freak out, which alerts the creature. And they start swimming frantically, getting further and further through the tunnel until they are able to submerge themselves. And they actually escape. And one thing I like about this sequence is it shows how long a creature or one of these creatures will last if they're in the water. And it's not long. They drown within seconds. So it's pretty powerful to see how water can play a part if you're trying to escape these creatures. Now, they end up in a church at the end of the tunnel, which is something I wasn't expecting. Now, Sam is extremely weak at this point because she is in so much pain and having to exert herself so much. Eric asks her to write down a list of her pain medication that she needs, and he goes off to find them. While he's at a pharmacy, something spooks him. He turns around, and it turns out to be Frodo, which is hilarious, who ends up following him. And like I said, it was a funny scene. And the fact that this cat is just following Frodo is following Eric is such a cat thing to do. Now, walking back to Sam, Frodo goes into a construction site, and Eric begins to follow him, trying to get him to go back. And I actually got frustrated at this scene because I'm like, dude, let the cat do its thing. It's a cat. It will follow you back. Just leave it alone, do its own thing. But I guess this man isn't a cat person. Anyway, they see these weird plants, which I begin to think that they're eggs, but later on when the creatures show up and starts eating them, turns out to be food. I'm guessing it's their own food that they have from their own planet. I thought they were eggs. So I was like, okay, they're taking a page out of Alien's book, but that wasn't the case. Anyway, Eric grabs the cat after he had to climb a pillar, which frustrated me further because I'm like, dude, it's a cat. It got up there. It can find its way back. But like I said, I guess not everybody owns a cat or knows this. After he rescues Frodo, he gets to Sam and gives her her medicine. And you can see that the medicine helps, but she's still in a lot of pain and exerting herself too much, which is really good because it's not like in most movies where you give somebody medicine and they're already 100% back. They're good to go. They're ready to continue to fight. She actually has to take her time because of how badly the cancer has left her. I mean, I really like the fact that they still remind you that, hey, even though she's running around doing all this stuff, she's still being affected by cancer. Anyway, she begins to talk more about her father and how he also died of cancer. And the reason she wants to go to Patsy's before she dies is because the fact that her father used to play at a jazz club, play beautiful piano, and afterwards he would take her to Patsy's, which also brings out more of the, hey, I want to go to this place and have to a place where I had such good memories before I pass away. So afterwards, they end up going to Patsy's only to see it burn down. So they end up going to the jazz club where her father played, where Eric leaves for a bit. And when he comes back with a white box with pizza. And he uses a black marker to basically write Patsy's on the box. And they enjoy a couple of cold slices. And I say cold slices is because there's no way this man heated up that pizza or cooked the pizza. And the good thing about pizza is you can have it cold. It's still delicious. Then to cheer her up, he begins to perform a magic show, which honestly, the entire scene was extremely wholesome. It was really nice, and it really kind of signified how differently this movie is to the previous others, because when it comes to spin-offs, sometimes they have a really hard time distinguishing themselves away from the original series. So for them to do scenes like this, it's nice. It brings a lot of soul to the movie, and honestly, it just shows how human these people are. After all this, after they relax, Sam and Eric switch coats. They don't really give a reasoning for why they switch coats. Sam just begins to take off her coat and gives it to Eric, and Eric does the same. Afterwards, they leave for the water and notice that the boats are leaving. They also notice that the creatures are near the edge of the boats. Well, not the edge of the boats, at the edge of the docks, and the boats are in the middle because they're trying to get to them. But of course, there's a body of water that stands between them and the boats. And early in the scene, you saw how well they did in water. Eric becomes panicky because he doesn't see how they're going to be able to escape to the boats because of all the creatures that are nearby. Because, of course, the boat is using its horn and all that stuff. Most likely, I actually don't know why they're using the horn while on the boat. Just because they are, maybe to draw creatures away from the city so people in the city may have a chance to escape. That's my assumption. While Eric is having a small panic attack, Sam gives Eric Frodo and tells him to run for the boats when he hears the signal. He tries to stop her, but she begins to run, grabbing a pipe and smashing the windows of the cars, allowing the alarms to go off. The creatures begin to follow the noise and her. Henry, who is on the boat, tells the captain to stop as someone is trying to get to them. Eric begins to run for the boats, but while running makes noise, and the creatures go from chasing the loud noise to now chasing him for whatever reason. I think it's to build tension, but I figure the car alarms going off would have made more noise, allowing him to have some type of protection, but I guess not. He runs, and the creatures gain on him, and he jumps just in time as a creature swipes for him and gets into the water, and he swims to the boat. And he begins to cry because he can't believe he just made it, and he also cries because he knows that Sam is now on her own. Henry greets him, and again, he is super happy to be on the boat. As he's relaxing with Frodo in his arms, he finds a note from Sam thanking him for making her feel alive again. She also tells him not to rub Frodo's belly because he doesn't like that, and not to overfeed him because he's already getting fat. And I gotta say, as much as I do like this scene, the fact that while in the water, that paper didn't get wet, I was like, yeah, it's fine, I'll let this pass. But still, I was like, wait a minute, how the heck did it not get wet? Anyway, the scene then switches to Sam as she's in the jazz club, looking at a photo of her younger self with her dad at Patsy's. Then afterwards, she grabs her iPod, puts it on a speaker, and has her headphones on the speaker listening to music. Afterwards, while she's walking in the middle of the street, she smiles and then pulls off the headphones from the speaker, allowing for the speaker to make noise, blaring its music. The movie then ends with a creature appearing from behind her, and I'm not gonna lie, it most likely kills her, but the scene goes to black before that even happens. And that's how the movie ends. Now I gotta say, this movie was fantastic. It was different than what I was expecting. I'm not gonna lie, I was expecting more action in this movie. Because you're in New York City, how can you not have more action? But I kind of like the route that they took. The story here definitely stands out from the other two, marking it as its own movie, very distinct. And one thing I liked is that these characters in the movie didn't feel like movie characters, but actual humans. They felt real, especially some of the conversations that they had. And the one thing I liked is the fact that they didn't make Eric into a cliche action type hero. Eric was somebody who was shell-shocked, who was scared, because of the fact that he basically was thrown into this chaotic situation and didn't know how to make heads or tails. He felt like an actual person being stuck in a horror movie. And the fact that he needed somebody to help him calm him down was really good. And the fact that Sam was the one to do it made it even more significant. Because one, Sam had already come to terms with dying. And the fact that she only had one goal to sustain her, and that was the pizza, was really amazing. Because remember, she was terminally ill. There was no light at the end of the tunnel. She knew that she was going to die. But before that, she wanted to revisit a happy memory. And Eric being there, being able to help her, just made it that much more special. Now, I want to talk about something that this movie opened my eyes to, and that's going to be a service cat. Because before this movie, I really didn't see how a cat could be a service animal, especially not to the same status as dogs. But this movie really changed my mind about it. It was really good. Like the fact that Frodo knew how to spot people, how to help them, walking over to Sam, especially when she started to feel lonely, and cuddling with Sam, and then cuddling with Eric because Frodo knew exactly what he needed, was really good. And again, I don't know if a cat could actually be trained to do this, but if they can, I gotta say, I'm all for them being added to the service animal list. Because again, service animals are the ones that have that special ability to be in any type of environment because they're service animals. It's very much different than emotional support animals. That one is not recognized. Service animals are. But anyway, moving on. One thing I also want to talk about is the ending. Because the ending was really powerful, how Sam wanted to die on her own terms. Once she was done with her mission, after she got Eric to go to the boat, saving not only him but her cat Frodo, she decided that cancer was not going to be the one to beat her. That she was going to listen to her favorite song one last time and then make sure that everyone who's around her, those creatures, hear it before she left. And I gotta say, I liked it. It really felt like something somebody would do, especially given the choice between dying from cancer or having a quick death by these creatures. So like I said before, it definitely added a lot of layers to the ending of this movie. So if I had to go ahead and rate this movie overall, I will have to give it a 9 out of 10. Now, I will say this, there were some slow parts to the movie, especially the scenes between them in the church and getting to Patsy's. That stuff in the middle was sort of slow, but it didn't really hamper the entire movie. And once you get past that this movie isn't going to be an action movie or more action than you were expecting, it turns out to be a really good time. So that's why I think it's a 9 out of 10, especially with all the actors playing their parts brilliantly. Alex Wolff, Joseph Quinn, Lupita, I'm probably going to butcher her last name, Nyong'o, all great actors, all did a phenomenal job in this movie. And I really hope that after the success of this movie, we're able to see more and more spin-offs about the other situations and all that stuff. Heck, one spin-off I would love to see would be focusing on the military and what was happening with them, either after these creatures came down or during day one as well, but from the perspective of the military. Because I really think they would be able to do like an Aliens type of situation. Having the first Alien movie be a horror movie and then switching to straight action for the second one. I could definitely see them doing this with The Quiet Place. At least one movie being more action with the military. Heck, since he's still kicking, why not get James Cameron to do it? This man is a legend when it comes to sequels. And shoot, maybe your movie will become like a $2 billion movie. I mean, what? Avatar got there, the Titanic got there, Avatar, Way of Water got there. I mean, this man hasn't released a movie that hasn't hit $1 billion in the past few years. I can't think of one movie in the past few years that he did that didn't hit at least $1 billion. So who knows? Maybe he will be the right man for the job. But anyway, that's it for this week's episode. I hope you guys enjoyed it, and I'll see you guys next week. Sayonara, see you later, and have a good one. Goodbye.